Well, good evening to you all. Yes, it's my turn to lead this evening, which I'm very pleased to be doing. I really liked Akasha Raja's introduction to this last week, and I think there are several of the points he raised that I'd like to revisit. I was thinking this month that it's 45 years this month when I first started meditating. It was down in Truro in Cornwall. Since that time, which is a long time ago, it feels like I've been circling round and coming back very often to the same place, coming back to the beginning. Although it's not circling, it's more like spiraling. So I come back to a place I recognize, but hopefully with a little bit more understanding, a little bit more wisdom. So I think this session, this series of evenings until April, for me is about going back to basics. It's a little bit about going back to the beginning. And I was thinking about that time 45 years ago when I started meditating. And as with joining any organization, you learn the language of the organization. You learn the words and the phrases which are used in that particular organization. And I think Jayaratna is no different. And I began to think about some of the words we use, and whether in fact we actually think much about them or reflect on them. And the two words that came to mind there were mindfulness and awareness. So we use those words very often. We use them in connection with meditation. We use them in study groups. But I wonder if when we use the words, we actually think, we actually reflect on what they actually mean for us as individuals. So, for example, how do we know when we're being mindful? What is it about mindfulness that makes it a state we recognize? And what does it feel like? What does it feel like to be mindful? And how do we know when mindfulness isn't there? What does that feel like as well? For me, it's about knowing what we are experiencing, putting it very simply. I mean, we very often think we know what we're thinking, but I wonder to what extent that's habit and to what extent it's based in reality. And I began to think about what can we experience with any degree of certainty or reality? What is it that we really know about? And I was reminded of Akasha Raja's story from last week, where you ask a local, how do I get to somewhere? And they think for a minute and then they say, oh, I wouldn't start from here. And it feels like quite often we're not starting from where we are, we're starting where we'd like to be in meditation or in awareness. We think we know where we are, but we're not absolutely sure. So what can we experience with any degree of certainty? And going back to basics, what we have got is a body and a mind. And finding out what they are like, finding out how we feel about them, where we stand with them, what they do actually feel like, and knowing what that experience is like, is what we'll be looking at this evening. So it's knowing where we start from and being receptive to how we actually are. Prakash Raja last week stressed the importance of receptivity as a sort of overarching quality to the system of practice. And I feel that's very important. So that receptivity is a thread which runs through the whole of our experience. So what we'll be doing this evening is we'll be doing a meditation and then going into breakout rooms and then talking a little bit about the practice for the week and finishing with the Last Vandana as usual. Prakash Raja stressed the importance of bringing these 5 elements of the practice together. And one of the things I think it's important to bring in here is the metta practice. And this is linked to knowing where we start from and having a sound knowledge of that. It's sometimes not very comfortable being clear about where we are, about how we feel. There's often a degree of discomfort in recognizing how we are and who we are. So if we're going to take on this practice, if we're going to take on the practice of knowing how the body feels and how the mind feels, then we need to actually bring in a degree of kindness and kindliness towards ourselves, of acceptance, of receptivity to how we are. So instead of having some sort of idea or ideal of who we are, what we're going to be looking at is how we actually are, and accepting that and being kind to ourselves about whatever we find. So it's about being honest and open, receptive and kind. Those, I think, are the qualities that I'd like to feel that we were bringing to this evening's practice and this week's practice. I don't want to say too much about this because Saravanta will be is doing next week, and I'm sure that there are quite a few things that she will want to expand on and pick up on. So I won't say too much more. The meditation that we're going to do is starting with a body scan. So if we want to know what our body is like, how our body actually feels, the reality of who we are physically, then a body scan is a very good way to do it. I know that quite often we will start with a body scan, and it will often be quite brief. So I want to do a more extended body scan this evening to start with, and then to move into the mindfulness of breathing, but not doing the usual 4-stage mindfulness of breathing that we do, but rather to use awareness of the breath as a sort of anchor to fix us in mindfulness of the body. So we'll see how we get on with it. And in the breakout room, there'll be a chance for us to talk in our group about how that was for us and about how we feel about going back to basics. Some of us will have been meditating for a long time, and we may feel that we've to a certain extent, we've got it sorted. And that's good if that's the way you feel. At times, I don't feel I have got it sorted, so I do go back to basics. But that's just me. So that's what the meditation will be concerned with. So it will be a reasonably lengthy meditation. So I'm thinking 35 or 40 minutes. And that means that I'm not going to say very much else by way of introduction. I think it's what I've said sets the scene for what we're going to do tonight. And as we're going to be sitting for 34, perhaps making sure that you're comfortable, starting by being kind to yourself, by setting up a posture that you're going to be able to maintain for that length of time. And if at any time you do become uncomfortable, then just feel free to move. So we're just beginning by becoming aware of sitting or lying down, becoming aware of the room that we're in, and allowing the memory of the screen that we've just been watching, allowing that memory to fade away. All the people that we've seen, some of whom we're quite close to, and just leave them for later on. We'll be coming back to them later. Aware of being supported by the seat, by the cushions, aware of our contact with the floor, feeling well supported in our practice physically. And also being supported by everyone in this group, supporting each other in our practice. And in turn, we're supporting everyone else. And bringing our attention to our head. At a very simple level, just aware that our head is there, balanced on the shoulders. And becoming aware of the skin and the muscles on the scalp. aware of how our face feels. Not changing anything, just being aware of how we feel right now. Aware of the eyes, the mouth, the jaw, feeling the neck and the throat. Awareness flowing down into the shoulders. And then moving down to the upper arms, skin and the muscles, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands and fingers. Aware of the position of the hands. Are they in contact with the body or the floor? Aware of the position of the arms generally. Bringing our attention back up the arms to the shoulders. And then gently moving our attention down the chest, front and the back. And as we move down the body, also being aware of the skeleton, the bones that are supporting us. Taking attention down through the waist, to the hips, aware of the contact that we're making with our seat. Noting the feel of the top of the legs, skin, the muscles and the bones. Working down to the knees, calves and shins, ankles, feet and toes. And then beginning to broaden our awareness to the entire body, from the tips of the toes and the fingers up to the top of the head. And noting how we feel about being so in touch with ourselves physically. Do we feel comfortable or uncomfortable? Accepting how we feel, right here and now. With kindness, perhaps with gratitude. Now beginning to focus on our breathing. So taking some of the awareness of the whole body and focusing it on the fact that we are breathing. We're not changing the breath. We're watching it with interest. It's what connects us to life. And as we focus on the breath, we also have a broad awareness of our body. We're using the breath as an anchor to fix us in the body. And each time we're aware that we have drifted off, that we've gone for a little journey in our mind, with kindness and gentleness, we come back to awareness of the body and the breath. If it helps to count the breath after each out-breath from 1 up to 10, and starting from 1 again, then do that. Whatever feels right for you in this meditation. And each time our mind wanders away, when we become aware of that, we gently lead our attention back to awareness of the body and the breath. Noticing where our mind keeps taking us on its little journeys, its little trips, because that's who we are as well. So we make a choice of staying on our little trip or coming back to awareness of the body and the breath. Checking that we're in touch, that we're aware of our body in its entirety. Aware of how it feels. And aware of how the breath feels in the body. Aware of the body moving, changing. And as soon as we're aware that we have lost awareness of the body and the breath, deciding if we want to bring our awareness back to that or not. And if we feel we're making effort in this meditation, just allowing that effort to fade. Just sitting with the body and the breath. And perhaps asking ourselves, at the end of this practice, how am I feeling? And then wait for the answer. So I think it's nearly 9 o'clock. So just to say a few words about practice this week. I think it might be useful if in your practice this week you did a body scan for longer or shorter, and a bit of mindfulness of breathing as well. So if you could practice that this week, would that fit well with what you're planning to do next week, Saravantu?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Body scans are go.
Excellent. And again, to remind you that, of course, there are body scans available on our website. If you find them difficult, or if you're tired and you want a bit of help with that, then by all means, avail yourself of those. Okay, so I think that's all I needed to say. It's been lovely to lead this evening with you, and we can finish as ever with the Last Vandana, the verses that protect the Dharma. Thank you, Vajrapriya. It's wonderful. The Last Vandana. Sabha papasa akaranam kusalasa upasampada sachita paryodapanam etang buddhana sasanam Dhammaṃ chare sucharitam nanam ducharitam chare Dhammachari sukhang seti asmin loke paramicha natavata dhammataro yavata bahupasati yocha pampi sutvana Dhammam kayena pasati Save Dhammataro Hoti O Dhammam Napamajati Nati me saranang anyang Buddho me saranang varang Etena Satyavachena Hotu me Jaya Mangalam Nati me Saranang Anyang Tamo me Saranang Varang Etena Satyavachena Hotu me Jaya Mangalam Nati me Saranang Anyang Sangho me Saranang Varang Etena Satyavachena Hotu me Jaya Mangalam Namo Buddhaya Namo Dhammaya Namo Sanghaya Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu